Chapter 2, the Heifer, page 66. Virtue does not consist in whether you face towards the east or the west. Virtue means believing in God, the last day, the angels, the book, and the prophets. The virtuous are those who, despite their love for it, give away their wealth to their relatives and to orphans and the very poor, and to travelers and those who ask for charity, and to set slaves free, and who attend to their prayers and pay the alms, and who keep their pledges when they make them, and show patience in hardship and adversity, and in times of distress. Such are the true believers, and such are the God-fearing. Commentary by Maulana Wahiduddin Khan. There is no doubt that there are certain accepted forms of religious conduct, but in essence, a religious act is aimed at discovering God as the light of the earth and the heavens, one who is closer to man than his jugular vein. What brings man closer to God is not the mere adherence to outward religious forms, but such actions as he performs, in total sincerity, for the sake of God alone. Man must discover God in a way that he becomes a part and parcel of his being. All his actions must aim at earning God's pleasure. His attachment to God should be so great that, even in the most trying circumstances, he must not waver from the straight path. In short, the Almighty's pleasure can be earned only by displaying true faithfulness, and not just by turning our faces in one or the other direction. Believing in God is to trust in God in the full sense of the word. Believing in the hereafter means giving the utmost importance to the life of the hereafter instead of to the life of this world. Believing in the angels means believing in God's emissaries who are running this world at the divine command. Believing in the book means believing that God has sent his guidance for man, which man must follow. Believing in the prophets is to accept these mortals as God's chosen messengers. The faith in all these matters must so deeply pervade the believer's psyche that he helps the needy and others in distress by spending his wealth, says his prayers by surrendering himself totally to God, and pays the poor due, his only motivation being to earn God's pleasure. One of the characteristics of a true believer is that when he enters into a contract, he fulfills it, treating it as if he has entered into a covenant with God. Chapter 2, the Heifer, page 67. Believers, retribution is cases of murder, the free man for the free man, the slave for the slave, the female for the female. If the offender is granted some remission by the heir of the slain person, the agreed penalty should be equitably exacted and should be discharged in a handsome manner. This is an alleviation from your Lord and an act of grace. He who transgresses after this shall have a painful punishment. In this law of retribution there is life for you, O people of understanding, so that perhaps you will be mindful of God. His trust in God is so great, even in the most dire of circumstances, that he always adheres to the godly path. These are the characteristics of a true believer. One who possesses these qualities will earn God's blessing in this world as well as in the hereafter. Commentary by Maulana Wahiduddin Khan. Islam has laid down the principle of retaliation in like measure, qisas. For example, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Retribution for a killer means the forfeiture of his own life. In this way, on the one hand, a capital crime like the taking of life is effectively discouraged, for the fear of losing one's own life deters one from taking another's life and, as a result, the life of all the members of a society become protected. The killing of the killer guarantees the saving of lives in a society. Thus, the objective of qisas is the protection of the members of society and not revenge. Moreover, the vengeful feelings of the family of the murdered person are cooled, thus obviating the possibility of any further injurious activity. However, qisas in Islam permits a settlement to be arrived at between the killer and the killed. The heirs of the deceased person may, of course, opt for the execution of the killer, but they may also, if they so wish, accept blood money instead, or even forgive him. The main aim of these alternatives is to guarantee the prevalence of brotherly feeling in Islamic society, and to prevent an atmosphere of rivalry taking root. Then the principle of blood money has the special advantage of giving the bereaved family monetary compensation for the death of one of its members. Chapter 2, the Heifer, page 68. It is prescribed that when death approaches any of you, and he is leaving behind wealth, he shall make a will in favor of his parents and relatives equitably. This is a duty for all who fear God. Anyone who alters it once he has heard it shall be accountable for his crime. Surely God is all-hearing and all-knowing. But if anyone apprehends partiality or an injustice on the part of a testator, it shall be no sin for him to bring about a settlement between the parties. God is forgiving and merciful. Commentary by Maulana Wahiduddin Khan. After someone's death, the problem arises as to how to deal with his or her wealth. The Islamic injunction in this regard is to distribute it in a just and equitable manner to the heirs. One who fears God should follow this injunction regarding the disposal of intestate property in the spirit of justice. This will create a brotherly atmosphere in society, preventing litigation and quarrels over property. Where there is a member of a family, like an orphaned grandson or any other needy member of the family who does not inherit under the Islamic inheritance scheme, the testator may provide for him, as he has been given the power to dispose of up to 1/3 of his property by making a will in his favor. Islam approves of every lawful device for keeping society free from litigation and quarrels. But unless this is the objective, the changing of the provisions of a will is unlawful.